Hey, it's Greg, and in this episode I'm going to show you how to avoid dead ends in your Power BI reports and not let your users fall into them. I will show you what's the use case, what's the challenge at hand. I will show you how to do it and also how not to do it. So some not the best practice ways basically that you want to avoid so that you do not get yourself into a lot of trouble doing this. So let's get right into it. Let's imagine that we've got this beautiful Power BI report. On the top I have some slicers. I have the channel and country. Then I've got some KPI cards, so just some new cards basically. Then we've got a table with countries and their sales amounts, and the same data is basically plotted into a map. Let's say that I am a user now and I want to kind of start working with this report, playing with it and so on. So I will select a channel that I'm interested into. Okay, that got us just 3 countries, perfect. So United States, China and France. And then from the country filter, I will select something more. I will select Canada. Kaboom! Here's your dead end into your Power BI report basically. So no data, the whole report went blank. There is basically something's broken. That's what your users can think, and that's what they might tell you as a feedback that, well, worst case, the dashboard is broken. Best case, they will give you a screenshot of this and ask you to, hey, can you help me fix it? But this is a situation that you want to avoid, that your users don't want to get into because it's confusing and can lead to some incorrect assumptions about how correct the dashboard is, and you might have spent some serious man hours or man days into it. So basically, let's just investigate what happened here. Well, for this specific channel, so reseller that we have selected, well, the report has reacted and filtered its scope, the filter context, to just 3 countries, United States, China and France, that actually do have some sales in the reseller channel. And this is plotted correctly on the map and in the table. But now, well, the country filter doesn't really react to that. It actually comes from another dimension table, frankly, that, well, just still is showing all the countries, not only just those 3. So if we select France, that works because France is part of the countries that have some sales in the reseller channel basically. But if we select Denmark, well, there is nothing. Whole report goes blank. That's not what we want. What we would like to have in this situation basically is something like in the second slicer I have here, a second country slicer. So just the values narrowed down to what you want to have, be it United States, China and France, just the ones that have some sales in this filter context. So let's get into a bit of theory so that just I explain to you what happens here. I've got this model behind the whole situation, but it's a bit simplified, but still that is enough for us to comprehend the situation. So in the middle I have the sales table, which is our fact table. This is a star schema, and this is where all our numbers come from. Now to the left we've got our channel table, and this is where our channel filter also comes from, so name of the channel. And then another dimension table, stores. This is where our country table, country column actually comes from. So the one that we would like to kind of know what countries are visible and have sales in the current filter context. So now, what's the problem? So basically the channel filter filters our sales table as we saw correctly because we selected channel just reseller, and well, only the transactions for the reseller channel and such countries appear. That's perfect. But well, the filter reaches here as we can see that there is the one-to-many relationship and single cross-filtering direction. So the filter context from channel reaches sales. But now we would also like that filter context basically to reach the stores. So this is where our filter, our drop down, our slicer for the country comes from, but that doesn't really happen. The filter from sales doesn't reach stores because, well, there's the single direction filtering. So this is just a one directional filter, which is perfect, but well, in this case, it doesn't allow the stores to kind of sync with what we have in the current context. So you might at this point think that it might be just a good idea to change that cross filtering direction to both, so that the filtering direction flows in both directions. And well, that would technically solve our case, but let me just draw it in big red color so that you do not do it. It's not the best way, and please don't do it unless you really have to and know what you are doing, because by enabling too many bidirectional relationships, you might get yourself eventually into a lot of trouble, much more trouble that you imagine and you want, basically. That can lead to ambiguous data model, which roughly translates as you will have a lot of trouble with it, unexplainable numbers, might not be able to create new relationships. That's a lot of pain. Do not do it, is what you need to remember, and check out now how we will work around it and do it in a better way. So now let's imagine that for each of the countries that we have listed here, we could just check that, hey, how many rows do I see in the sales table for this country? So for Armenia, it will be 0, 0. We don't have any sales for Armenia. Australia, same thing. But for China, we will have some rows. And basically, if we have some rows in the fact table, that means we want to show this country in this slicer, in this dropdown, because it means that there is some data behind it, like here, that we want to show. So this is actually pretty easy to do. The measure that you want to output, it looks just like this. I call it country slicer visibility filter, but it's just one function, count rows of sales. So how many rows do we see in the sales table? This is the simplest syntax, but you can also use is empty or summarize. That they will you can get basically the same results based on them. And if you want the best performance, so the fastest possible for really larger data sets, then use is empty. Nevertheless, we will just be using this measure basically to check how many rows in the sales data do we see per given country. And well, if we see at least one, that means there is some data behind this selection. And this is what we want to achieve basically. So let's just drag our newly created measure into the visual level filters of our designated slicer, so country. And now we want that measure to be greater or equal to 1. So basically we see at least one row, so there is something to show in the very simplest scenario. Okay, let's apply. Let's also hide this filter perhaps. And now, well, voila, it works. We have China, France, United States. This is basically the exact same thing that I did in the second slicer, so that we see some data basically, and the setup is the same. Now let's test it a little bit more. So if we deselect this channel reseller, do we see all the countries? Yeah, we do see all the countries. That works perfect. Let's select another, maybe catalog. Hey, that's just US. And what do we see here? Yeah, just US. So that works perfectly. What I like particularly about this approach is that, well, you can practically you can use the same measure in the same setup for all the filters and slicers you might have. So if you would have also the brand, product name, here perhaps some region of the country or city, you can use this filter filter as a measure, so measure as a filter, the other way around actually, in the same way on all of these measures, as long as they are basically connected to the same fact table. So same syntax, very easy, just one measure. You don't need to have tailored measures by each for each slicer, so that's very easy to replicate. And that also doesn't affect performance too much, but it gives your users a nice user experience so that they just cannot land at any dead ends and confusing situations basically, which I also very much like. And my users also enjoy this. Okay, thanks, that's it for this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this no dead ends approach.